All right, a warm welcome back. This is The Verdict. And we were saying before the break that collation is ongoing in many places. And there are issues, a different set of issues concerning collation, which have nothing to do with voting. And if you listen to most people, they tell you that it's not the voting that matters in this particular electoral process. It's the counting. That is where issues normally arise, the counting. So this is the very, very, very important part of the electoral process, and that's why we're focused on this. There are logistics concerning this as well.
Don't go there.
There are logistics concerning this as well. And one would expect that these logistics would be in place. We're at least hoping that they would be in place so that the process can be smooth and we can get the results fairly quickly before people start getting antsy, because the longer it takes, the sooner you begin to have conspiracy theories and other people adducing reasons as to why there is a delay.
That's right, and we just do hope that it all comes in and the result is accepted, because that's what people are looking at, the result that will come out, and whether or not the majority of people will accept it, looking at some of the logistics hurdles that we've had for voting, separate from the logistics challenges that we seem to hear for collation as well. So it's a peaceful result that we all hope for.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day, those who are voting today, I'm sure they'll be feeling like, oh, why is it that we were left behind? The most important thing is that you're given the opportunity to exercise your franchise. And my thinking is that we Nigerians need to own the exercise. Even if INEC, as one of our guests said, INEC hasn't owned it enough yet. We had, that was Ifeoma Azugo. They said INEC hasn't owned it enough, but apparently Nigerians have gotten to the point where they now own it. But we need to, again, hear from some of our correspondents.
Yeah, we're getting some reports from all across the country. Let's head to Nasarawa, where we have Halima Gaya on standby. Halima.
This is Abacha Youth Center in Lafia, the Nasarawa State Capital. This is the collation center for Lafia local government area. The collation for the 13 wards of Lafia local government is currently ongoing in the presence of security personnel, party agents, observers, and journalists as well. The same process is believed to be ongoing across the local government areas of the state. The situation here hasn't been smooth, as a mild drama ensued earlier when a political party agent raised an alarm that a man identified as Yawuza was assisting the local government returning officer. The party agent alleged that the Yawuza was taking photographs of the results. Calm has been restored and collation has continued. We are still on standby and more details will come your way as it unfolds.
Okay, we heard from Halima there. Tempers flared a bit just as the collation was going on. People looking a bit angry there, but we hope that settles down. Let's take you now to Benue, where the state governor there was talking about some of the violence and some of the issues that cropped up during the voting. Let's see what they're saying now that collation is supposed to be on the way.
I got the news that my chief agent for the state, Dr. Cletus Tioka, who is a lecturer with UniAgric, Makurdi, was arrested on an allegation that he was training talks. And he was not arrested with any talk. They just went to his house. He was sleeping. They came in the morning and arrested him and took him. I contacted the commissioner of police. He claimed ignorance. I contacted the AIG in charge of Zone 4, where Benue State is inclusive, and he also told me that he was not aware that he would find out. I contacted the in charge of North Central for this election, and he also told me he was going to find out. This is unfair. Let me use this medium because I cannot assess the Inspector General of Police. I know him as a professional, and it is expected that he should be professional in his conduct. Mr. President has assured the entire country that the elections will be free, fair, and transparent, and so there is no point intimidating anybody whatsoever. There is no way you will arrest an agent of PDP in Benue State and think that you're conducting a free and fair election. So there is no utter truth on this matter. I'm calling for the arrest, for the release of our state agent so that everything goes on. We have said it before, that if the election is free, fair, and transparent, and the people speak and decide, well, we're ready to concede if we lose. But the opposition should also know there is no need trying to arrange to cut corner and rig the election. We have raised this alarm, and this will not be accepted. There is no point hitting the politics. Elections are going on in Benue relatively peaceful, and there shouldn't be any challenge of people trying to raise tension. And it shouldn't come from security agencies who are trying to do this. We have raised alarm before, and they are just executing their plan.
I have no idea of this arrest. I have no idea. Yesterday, we're all through, and when I heard of this report, I called the DCCID, whether there is any case like that, and going through his facilities, there was nobody like that. So I'm not aware of any such arrest. We will, of course, an investigation to be made, and I'm waiting to be briefed. We will look at other details. But for now, I am not aware, and nobody has reported any case of abduction or kidnapping to me.
All right, thank you so much. The Benue State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Bishi, and before him, the Governor of Benue State, Samuel Atom, talking about allegations of arrest and no arrest and so on. The Governor saying that his chief agent was arrested, and the Commissioner of Police saying he has no information, he has no knowledge of this arrest. Again, this is the latest development from Benue, which is still in the North Central. Before that, we were in Nasarawa State, also in North Central zone of Nigeria.
That's right. Well, we'll continue to keep our eye on collation and every other activity surrounding that. Now, let's dive right into the conversation here in the studio. Joining us here from Lagos is a social reformer, Lady Taiwo Adejumo. Thanks for joining us on the show today. And over there in Abuja, we have a political analyst, Wale Oluwade. Thanks for joining us. As well as human rights and social justice advocate, Jacqueline Iketuonye. Thanks a lot for joining us as well. Well, let me just start off with you in Abuja. This is for Jacqueline Iketuonye. The results are beginning to come in, and we're beginning to see the logistics of collation play out. How do you see the process so far? Let me just start from there. And that's concerning the voting, and now what we're hearing as results are beginning to come in.
Okay, thank you, Ijoma, for having me. Before we even begin to look at the collation of the results, I think I need to go back to a personal experience I had yesterday at the polling center. When we got to the polling centers, the first one where we were supposed to go to, PU023, we were told
Sorry, where is this?
How many hours
where
there.
is this?
What part of the country is this?
That was in Abuja.
Okay.
Okay, it's actually called Baba Dutse Primary School, PU023.
Please go on.
We were referred to another polling unit. We got there. After going through the accreditation with the card readers, we were told again that our names were not on the register. We were referred to another, till we were taken to 5 polling units. Now, when you look at the online polling unit locator, there is nothing there that says that the PU 023 has been broken down into 5 different units. So with so many of us going from one place to the other, by the time we were taken back to one of the polling units called the Yayale, in Yayale Estate, we were told that they had closed voting. And that was how we missed out on voting. Now, looking at the electoral guidelines, there seems to be a lot of flaws there.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr.
So many people were disenfranchised because of...
We will come back to you to tell us what your experience is. But before then, let me just ask you, Lady Adejuma, to weigh in on what you were saying there.
In my area, Adeni John Tikeja, it was very peaceful. Polling went on very well. But I think it was late in about 4 units. But everything went on well.
So you think INEC did a good job? Because today we're supposed to have that INEC briefing and listen to them. Do you think they did okay?
You have to look at locations and units. You can't say
okay,
INEC
so actually,
well
if we look at the visuals that we have there now, the INEC chairman is about to brief us, and we'll come back to you once we've heard from him.
No, this is not working. This is one of the own. This is the one that do you invite the idea to operations? No, why not?
Honorable Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission and Chief Electoral Commissioner of the Federal Republic of Ghana, National Commissioners, DIG Operations of the Nigeria Police Force, Your Excellencies, representatives of the national community, distinguished gentlemen of the press, good afternoon. The Commission did promise that it will proactively give you information regarding the electoral process. Even that promise was carried forward even now that the election, polling itself is over. But we all realize the process and we all realize how hungry you are, Nigerians are, for information concerning the process and what went down 24 hours ago in our country. It's on this note that we've decided to give you an update of all that has transpired in the last 24 hours since polling closed. And this will be done by the Honorable Chairman himself. Yesterday the briefings were done by the National Commissioner. But now, to underscore the importance we take this assignment, the Chief Electoral Commissioner of the Federal Republic of Nigeria himself is here to give you an update. So, at this juncture, I will respectfully call on him, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, to brief the nation on what has happened in the last 24 hours. Honorable Chairman, sir.
Which one is working? No, it's not working. That's stuff. Can we? It's not working. It's not the traffic. I'm not going to the traffic. So you have to stand it. No, can we fix it to this one? It's not working. That one's the one of the own. Can we fix it to this one? Or is somebody else? Somebody else's one. Yeah, worried.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday, millions of Nigerians trooped to the polling units to elect a president and members of the National Assembly. Voting took place nationwide. The Commission is happy with the general peaceful and patriotic conduct of citizens. Elections are all about the people. And once again, Nigerians have demonstrated extraordinary resilience an abiding faith in democracy and the electoral process. We wish to reiterate our commitment to protecting the sanctity of the ballot and the integrity of the choices made by Nigerians at the polls. Last night, the Commission met and reviewed the processes and challenges arising from the conduct of the elections based on reports received from our state offices nationwide, as well as information harvested from our various citizens' contact platforms. The Commission acknowledges that there were places where personnel and materials did not arrive on time, resulting in delays in opening of polls. We responded by extending the voting period to compensate for the loss of time. Our reports indicate that many citizens who would have otherwise been disenfranchised had the opportunity to vote. Similarly, in spite of our best effort to enhance the functionality of the smart card readers, we experienced technical glitches in some locations. Through the deployment of 8,809 area registration area technical support, or RATEX, that we engaged as ad hoc staff, many of these glitches were successfully rectified, which enabled voting to take place seamlessly in some of the affected polling units. Yet, there were places where voting could not proceed as a result of the failure of the smart card readers. In addition, there are places where materials arrived late for voting to proceed. After consultation with the communities involved and in line with our regulations and guidelines, new smart card readers have been reconfigured and deployed for elections in the affected polling units. Right now, elections are either ongoing or have just been concluded in some polling units in Abia, Bayelsa, Benue, Plateau, Zamfara, and one polling unit in Benji local government area of Sokoto State and in Kuje area council of the Federal Capital Territory. We are determined that the vote of every Nigerian is important and must count. We have received preliminary reports and are closely monitoring the situation in Rivers, particularly Boni and Okokutoru local government areas. We are similarly awaiting the detailed report from our Imo office, particularly in respect of the Owerri municipal local government area. We are also aware of the incidents in some parts of Lagos, particularly Okota. We are similarly aware of the incidents of intimidation, abduction, hostage-taking, and violence unleashed on election officials in some states, notably Akwa Ibom, and the burning down of a vehicle conveying materials used for the election yesterday in Dekina local government area of Kogi State. Some youth corps members serving as ad hoc staff were also attacked in Osun State. While in all these attacks, election staff sustained injuries, we have unfortunately recorded the first fatality in Rivers State. An ad hoc staff, Mrs. Ibisaki Amakri, was hit by a bullet while returning from election duty in Degema. May her soul rest in peace. We condemn these attacks and will forward a comprehensive report to the security agencies for expeditious investigation and prosecution of those involved. We have also received reports of voters who presented genuine PVCs read by the smart card readers, but were not allowed to vote because their names were not on the register of voters. We have been confronted by such a situation in one of the off-season elections conducted by the Commission. For this reason, we made a clear provision in our draft guidelines and regulations to allow such voters to vote. However, when the draft was discussed with stakeholders, the clause was rejected on the ground that it would encourage voting by identity theft. We had to drop it, and for that reason, it was dropped. For our part, all election duty personnel have sworn an oath of neutrality. We have reports of possible dereliction of duty by some electoral officials in refusing to activate or deploy the smart card readers. The failure to fully account for...
I would like to ask this question. There is this report making rounds that in Rivers State, a particular minister was reported to have gone into one of the polling units with military and also forcing the INEC official there to manipulate the process. So I want to find out if INEC is aware of this development, and if INEC is aware, what steps has INEC taken to see that the process is not manipulated in that area? Because the woman, the INEC official, the lady is already crying out for her life.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The Honorable Chairman will wish to respond to those 12 questions, really, 19.
Okay, thank you very much for all the questions and comments. Tribune, violence in so many states. How will you appraise the performance of the security agencies? I'm unsure that this is the right time for post-mortem, because this is an ongoing process. Yes, election was conducted. Yes, we concluded the first segment of the election, and as I've admitted, issues have arisen, but I'm unsure this is the right time for us to have an appraisal of performance of institutions. Remember, in the next 2 weeks, we are going to conduct elections once again for governorship and state assembly. So it's always prudent in this kind of situation to conclude the process before you do a post-mortem. Then you appraise the situation. But I want to assure you that with every situation, there are lessons to be learned. And once you learn lessons, there are steps that must be taken. So we'll review the situation after the elections, and then we'll see what further adjustments we need to make to the security architecture and to the way we conduct elections in Nigeria. Liberty TV, Imo, Lagos, Anambra is the commission rescheduling election in entire state or a part of the state. Where violence occurs or where there are violations that made it impossible for us to conduct credible elections in parts of a state, then obviously it will our solution will only apply to that part of the state. I remember in our regulations and guidelines, we made it clear that where there is a willful refusal to use the smart card reader, the commission will appoint another date to go back to those constituencies and conduct elections. And I've enumerated to you the number of states where yesterday we directed the resident electoral commissioners to conduct elections before we can finally conclude on those states. So wherever there are violations, and these violations will require going back to conduct elections, we will do so. But so far there is no state where such violations are wholesale across the entire state to warrant for repeating elections statewide. There is none. Is the FCT Area Council elections cancelled? Well, as chairman of INEC, I'm hearing this for the first time. So we have cancelled no elections, not in the FCT, not anywhere in the country. Under our laws, once the returning officers make a declaration, then they can reverse those declarations. Much of the elections in the area councils in the FCT will be a matter for returning officers appointed by the Commission to make declarations. There is 1 senatorial seat and 2 federal constituencies in the FCT. We only collate the results for the presidential election, and we look at it in the context of nationwide results. No election result has been cancelled in the Federal Capital Territory or any part of Nigeria for that matter. Unarmed policemen at polling units. Will the decision be revisited given what we have seen? I think this is also one of the lessons that we need to learn from the way we conduct elections. Remember, there was a reason why the Commission introduced the idea of having unarmed policemen at polling units. Citizens complained about the presence of armed security personnel at polling units. And so we thought the solution was to have unarmed security personnel. But if that is no longer the solution and it needs to be revisited, it's one of the lessons that we learn from conducting elections going forward. A reporter from The Punch asked whether that voters were not allowed to vote in Savangari area of Kano. I'm not aware that any Nigerian citizen with legitimate card was not allowed to vote in any part of this country. I'm not aware of that. I have not received report from the Red Kano, and I have not received report from any of the other sources that we have, in addition to our state offices. I have not. That a Nigerian registered to vote in a particular place, went there with his or her PVC, and was denied the right to cast his vote. I'm not aware of any such report in Kano. But if you have information to that effect that we wish to draw attention, we are at the ICC until we make a declaration for the presidential election. And I assure you that we'll take it up immediately. Social media a result announcement. What do I say? I can only appeal to the social media to please be circumspect in the way we report, particularly the outcome of elections. I've seen some of the reports say one candidate has been declared winner, and then when you read it, they will say in his polling unit. So the position of the commission is that INEC as a commission does not support censorship. We don't support censorship. And we believe that the best antidote to fake news is more openness and transparency. And that is what we are doing through this medium, to explain and clarify and respond to your questions. But I can only appeal to those who operate at that level to please be extremely circumspect in the kind of information that they put forward. Recall what I told you earlier in one of our news briefings. You know, there was a screaming headline, breaking news, INEC chairman has stepped down. And if you read the they say INEC chairman stepped down from his car to address Then Sunday, from the leadership newspaper, said that he wants details of the offense committed by the EO that was handed over to the police in Imo. We'll make this announcement, but not immediately, since investigation is ongoing, but it's related to some infractions over the conduct of the elections on Saturday. We'll spare no one, not even staff of the commission, no matter how highly placed or lowly placed in the hierarchy. Situation room, conflicting results. Have this violated the Electoral Act? Well, again, I will appeal. Citizens have the right to have access to information, but often it's what we make of the information that we have access to in a way that does not create problems for the system. And so I will continue to appeal to citizens. Information will be readily available, but please always be careful in the way you use the information. Reuters, how many confirmed deaths as a result of the election? Well, my focus of attention is actually more on the staff that we engage for elections. Every day before I go to bed, I have this trepidation. we have a responsibility to the young Nigerians who have engaged to help us conduct elections. And I personally feel touched when anything befalls any of the ad hoc staff we engage. You know, when that thing occurred yesterday in Degema and Rivers, I had a flashback to what happened in December 2016 when we lost a core member, the late Okonto Samuel. I will never forget this experience for the rest of my life. We feel for this staff. They are like our children. And you can imagine having put them through education. And they are now at the last lap serving the nation. And in that context also serving the country to conduct credible elections. And somebody snips life out of them. I really feel it. So my focus is more on the staff that we have engaged. Some have been injured. Some were abducted. We worked with the security agencies to secure their release. In fact, yesterday, in the case of one of the local governments in Rivers, I was told that it's not just INEC ad hoc staff, but also regular staff and the police held hostage. I had to make a quick call to secure the release of all. And shortly after I made the call, I learned that they were all released unharmed. So I focused more on those that we have engaged and deployed for election duty. But our heart also goes out to the families of all Nigerians who lost their loved ones on account of last Saturday's elections. So this one, I think, is the lead agency responsible for election security that should give us a toll nationwide of the number of people that might have unfortunately lost their lives. So Reuters, I'm not in a position to give you the figures, cumulative figures of citizens who might have died in the course of the elections. Underage voting in Taraba, as reported by the media. Well, we have said it over and over again. The law in Nigeria is very clear on eligibility for voting in our elections. No one can be registered and no one can vote if he or she is below the statutory age of 18 years. And our position is very clear. Any person below the statutory age of 18 who appeared at any polling unit should immediately be arrested. And I'm not sure of what happened truly in Taraba, whether they were underage persons and they were not arrested, but that is the standing instruction. We just cannot have people who are ineligible to vote in our elections voting. Our position is very, very clear on this matter. River State, it says someone someone moved to the collation center and forced a change of result. I'm not aware that any such thing happened in Rivers, that any result has been tampered with. The procedure for writing of results and the collation, including the collation processes, are very clear, and the forms or instruments used for collation of results and transmission of same are also very clearly defined. And I'm not aware that at any of our collation centers, someone forced his way in any state to change figures. I want on this note to say that one of our major responsibilities is not only to try and conduct elections, but also to protect the integrity of the process. Why should we bother conducting elections when we cannot, as a commission, vouch for the integrity of the outcome of the elections and protect the sanctity of the ballot? We will continue to do so, and we will continue to do so courageously, believing that the best way to guard our democracy is by protecting the sanctity of the ballot. And this, I want to assure you that we will never, never in this respect fail the nation. So work continues. I'm inviting all of you who are accredited at 6 o'clock to please come to the National Collation Center. There will be a formal inauguration, and it is from there that hopefully in not too distant future, the Commission will make a formal declaration of who the next President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is. I thank you very much on behalf of INEC. Thank you. Thank you.
answer is that a lot of lessons are to be learned from the conduct of these elections, but that he would like to reserve his comments on most of this until the exercise itself has been concluded. We'll still talk more about the INEC chairman's briefing and the various points he made with our guests, but that'll be after this break.